And joining me now is Wardah Khalid. She's an analyst on Middle East policy and Muslim American issues. She's joining us from Houston. First, let's talk about this higher voter turnout expected among Muslim Americans. What do you attribute that to?
Well, fear is a very motivating factor, and it's no different from Muslim Americans. In this election, 86% of registered Muslim voters are planning to vote in this election, and the majority of them are actually voting for Hillary Clinton because they're so concerned about what Donald Trump has been saying throughout the campaign. From the last in San Bernardino shootings right after that in December 2015, he wanted to call for a full and outright ban on Muslim Americans. And since then, the rhetoric has just continued. And so people are really concerned. They're going out to the polls in increasing numbers. And in some cases, there actually could be the swing vote. In Florida, for instance, there's a large number of voters there, and they could actually make an impact. So they're coming out, they're early voting, they're regular voting. And it's important because they're afraid that their livelihood is at stake. They're afraid that they will be banned. They're afraid of the rhetoric that is conflating them with ISIS and saying that they are a threat to the American people, when in fact, Muslim Americans are extremely patriotic, and 91% of Muslim Americans feel that being American is very important to their identity. So the rhetoric is just simply not true, and so they're going out to the polls to go against that.
Yeah, so you've talked about some of the issues at stake here. Let's talk about the influence of Khizr Khan. His son, U.S. Army Captain Humayun Khan, was mentioned in Nietzsche's piece. Of course, he died while serving in the Iraq War. Some say his impassioned speech at the Democratic National Convention decrying Trump's anti-Muslim rhetoric has actually galvanized votes against the Republican candidate. He recently sat down with one of my colleagues, Elaine Reyes. I want to listen to what he has to say, and I want to get your reaction on the other side. Let's listen.
I implore Donald Trump and his advisors to understand, instead of condemning, join hands, because Muslims are as much victim of this terrorism as any other place or country.
I want to get your thoughts on his role in this election. How much of an impact do you think he's had?
I think Khizr Khan had a huge instrumental impact in this election. You know, from the point where he stood on that DNC convention stage and told Donald Trump that he would gladly lend his copy of the Constitution to him was extremely powerful. This ban on Muslim Americans that Trump was touting is simply unconstitutional. His own running mate said so before, that it was offensive and unconstitutional. So having a Muslim American there, a Gold Star family who lost a son to Iraq, was extremely powerful. That is the ultimate sacrifice that any American make. And it is no less if a Muslim American makes it. And so I think he's absolutely right that, you know, this is wrong for Muslim Americans to be vilified. They're just as patriotic as any other American, and he has been really instrumental. He helped the Hillary Clinton campaign for sure. He just came out with a recent ad further supporting her, and so he's played an instrumental role in this.
Let me ask, because you brought up Florida, the largest number of Muslim Americans are in states like New York and California, considered safe for the Democrats. Clinton expected to take those states. But there are a large number, as you mentioned, in Florida, Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Virginia. Where do you see them perhaps tipping the scales on election night? Which states are you going to keep your eye on?
I think each of these states is very important since they have high Muslim American populations. And according to a recent study by the Council on American Islamic Relations, 72% of Muslim Americans are going to be voting for Hillary Clinton. So I'm expecting these states to go to Hillary Clinton. Of course, we'll have to wait and see on election night how that plays out. But as I mentioned before, Muslim Americans really don't have a choice in this election. It's a question of survival. And so rather than voting on perhaps more about the issues, they're more concerned about which candidate is going to welcome them and not kick them out or ban people from entering. And so they're going to be voting for Hillary Clinton.
And talking about Hillary Clinton, she's emphasized inclusion but faces her own criticism among Muslim Americans. Some say her public remarks mostly focus on mentioning them in the context of helping with counterterrorism efforts. Could she be basically coming up with a different message that could be more inviting to Muslim American voters, do you think?
Absolutely. This is a very strong criticism that she has faced and others in the Democratic Party have faced in that, on one hand, you've got Trump wanting to ban Muslims, but on the other hand, you have the Democratic candidate, Hillary Clinton, continuously saying that Muslims are the eyes and ears, they're on the front lines of terror, and everyday Muslim Americans don't feel that they're on the front lines of terror. They just want to go to work, be a doctor, be a lawyer, work in a grocery store, what have you. And so they don't feel like they're law enforcement or police agents. And so this constant conflation of Muslim Americans as the eyes and ears against terrorism, that they're only useful when it comes to terrorism, is a wrong message. And I think Muslim Americans, if she is elected to the White House, are going to be talking to her about that and pushing her on that, and trying to come up with a more inclusive message, one that embraces Muslim Americans for all of the wonderful facets they bring to this country, rather than just looking at them through a security lens.
Wardah Khalid joining us from Houston. Thanks so much.